Very good morning, everyone. Am I audible and visible? Thank you. A very good morning to everyone. The Interact Club of Sri Sri Academy presents It's More Than Just That, an open mic to commemorate 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This is a platform where our students will voice their thoughts in the form of fact-filled self-written pieces, gut-wrenching poetry, and hair-raising personal anecdotes. In order to invoke the presence of the Almighty and to give this ceremony an auspicious strange start, I call upon Poonam Baid to chant the school shloka. I request everyone to please join their hands and close their eyes. Poonam, over to you.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we all be protected. May we all be nourished. May we work together with great energy. May our intellect be sharpened. Let there be no animosity amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Thank you, Poonam. Next, we have It Rarely Stops, our opening musical piece, which signifies the journey of an abuse victim from being caged to its free flight. Can we please have the video?
Is it audible and visible?
तू खुद की खोज में निकल, तू किस लिए हताश है? तू चल, तेरे वजूद की समय को भी तलाश है, समय को भी तलाश है। जो तुझसे लिपटी बेड़ियां, समझ ना इनको वस्त्र तू। जो तुझसे लिपटी बेड़ियां, समझ ना इनको वस्त्र तू। ये बेड़ियां पिघाल कर बना ले इनको शस्त्र तू। तू खुद की खोज में निकल, तू किस लिए हताश है? तू चल, तेरे वजूद की समय को भी तलाश है।
कारी कारी रहना सारी सौ अंधेरे क्यों लाई रोशनी के पाँव में ये बेड़िया से क्यों आई उजियारे कैसे अंगारे जैसे छाँव छली धूप में ही क्यों है
खाना तो बनाना सीख लो पहले।
That had to happen. Look at what she's wearing.
औरतें घर पर ही अच्छी लगती हैं।
How dare you say no to me?
तुम हमारी बराबरी क्या करोगी?
You're not even a real girl.
बस! मैं श्वेत हूँ, लाल तुमने रंग दिया। What once flowed through me aches to stop now. मैं श्रृंगार हूँ, मगर मेरा अस्तित्व तुमने उतार दिया। Why does the beauty you're so hungry for makes your stomach drop now? कैसे अडिग खड़ी हूँ मैं?
How am I still alive, you ask?
मैं इतिहास हूँ, अपना भविष्य जिसने लिख दिया। I am the canvas that paints its own picture now.
ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धना मृत्युर्मोक्षीयमामृता कहता ये पल खुद से निकल जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल कहता ये पल खुद से निकल जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल मुसाफिर था जाने दे धूप आंगन में आने दे जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल जीते हैं चल
Thank you so much. That was truly inspiring and moving. Moving on from that, I welcome our guests of honor, the District Interact Club Chairperson, Shilogna Daw ma'am. We're expecting the Secretary of the Rotary Club of Calcutta, Chaurangi, Rotarian Vikram Tantia sir, and our guide and mentor, Rotarian Sudeshna ma'am. I welcome our past DG, Rotarian Rajani Mukherjee sir, and it is my honor and privilege to welcome our guest moderator for the day, Ms. Urmi Basu, a renowned activist and founder of New Light, an organization that looks after sex workers in Kolkata. Ma'am is deeply concerned about transgenerational prostitution and was given the Nari Shakti Puraskar Award on International Women's Day in 2019. This is among a long list of achievements, and I really cannot properly introduce you, ma'am. Welcome back. We also have with us our first issue expert, Mrs. Srimoyi Sen Ram, who is a trained and qualified developmental professional. She has worked in the UK and in India with government agencies, reputed NGOs, with vulnerable children and disadvantaged families. Her core area of work focuses on child protection, spanning a period of 27 years. She is currently the co-founder and joint director of Mental Health Foundation, Kolkata, and has initiated a network called Raksha, which stands for Rise Against Child Sexual Harm and Abuse, comprising organizations and individuals working for prevention, recognition, address, and healing of victims and survivors of child sexual abuse. She's a board member of child protection committees of a couple of schools in Kolkata. We are delighted to have you with us, ma'am. I also welcome our second issue expert, Mrs. Ananya Chakraborty, who is currently working as the chairperson of the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Ma'am has worked as a director, as a lecturer, as a consultant, and a producer, among a long list of inspiring achievements. I'm truly running out of words, ma'am. We are very excited to have you on board. I finally welcome the members of my own family. Our principal, Mrs. Shunglu, Vice Principal, Mrs. Banerjee, Badi Sir, the Head of Child Protection Committee of SSA, Papia Ma'am, all teachers, faculty, students, and parents of this prestigious institution. Now, I call upon our teacher coordinator, Radhika Ma'am, to take over. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Shruti. A very good morning to everybody. At the very outset, I'd like to tell you all that proceedings today will be intense and might cause some discomfiture. We would not have had the moral courage to raise an issue such as this if my young interactors had not clamored to be heard. The open mic today was designed to do that, to give them a safe platform to speak and share, to tell us how deeply affected they are by the violence they see around themselves, how they want to raise awareness and bring about change in the world. In the words of Bob Dylan, how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Friends, the times they are indeed a-changing, because more and more young people today want to be heard. Their voices can no longer be stifled. We, as adults, must encourage them to be fearless in speaking out against gender-based violence, and for that matter, aggression of any sort. That is the only way to build a peaceful, humane world. We will have failed them if we do not give them the opportunity to say, enough, no more. Thank you very much. I would now like to request our principal, Mrs. Shunglu, to accord our guests a formal welcome. Thank you, ma'am. Savina, ma'am, please take over.
Thank you, Radhika, ma'am. That was very beautifully said and expressed. I also would like to mention the quality of the video. It's very touching and empowering, I feel. So, on behalf of the management of Sri Shri Academy, Kolkata, and all of us here at Sri Shri Academy, the staff, the students, the teachers, I warmly welcome all our guests today. The DICC Miss Sulagna Dor, moderator Urmi Basu, who's known to us, who's not new. She's visited us many times on different occasions. Issue experts Ananya Chakrabarti and Dr. Srimoy Senram. I have seen that Mr. Rajni Mukherjee, the previous DICC, has been there from the beginning. He was there, I think, 10 minutes before, seeing us getting ready to go live. Mr. Vikram Tatya, Sudeshna, and all others, dignitaries from Rotary Charangi. It gives me great pride that my Shrians, both boys and girls, will be aware and will be empowered through this process as future women and men of our society, of our country, to take a stand, to take an empowered stand against violence of any kind. It could be gender, sectarian, communal, any kind of violence, any kind of aggression. Our founder's vision for a violence-free world, that is his vision of whatever he's done. He's given us tools, he's given us institutions, he's given us ancient knowledge, is the basis for the existence of this school. His goal is a violence-free, stress-free world. What can we do for others in this world to live without aggression, to live without conflict? And therein lies these values of justice, harmony, equality, respect for all, honesty, which form the bedrock of our school. And I couldn't find a better set of students for you to start this process, this journey of empowering them. They're young, and they are ready. So thank you for being here and doing this for us. We are very, very happy at this. So the Interact Club must be mentioned for taking this very, very powerful issue, which is there. And we, as she said, we normally say, yes, it happens. We never do admit that it happens around us, or people who we know, we say it happens. So big congratulations to the Interact Club for organizing this. And thank you very much again for being here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I hand over the control to Urmi, ma'am. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Good morning, Mrs. Shunglu, Radhika, the teachers, and all the extraordinary students of Sri Sri Academy who have today gathered to be future activists, keeping in mind that these 16 days of activism is something that's going to take them forward in their lives, irrespective of whichever issue or mission they take on for their lives. So these 16 days of activism is not limited only to gender-based violence. It can be for anything, any injustice that we see around us. Today, we are especially honored to have our other experts, Sri Moisen Ram and Ananya Chakrabarti, who will be filling us in how to be true activists in a world where all our actions are being challenged constantly. Today's session has been so deeply, mindfully organized and planned by Radhika, and the kind of contributions that the students have brought in is truly going to blow your mind away. We are incredibly proud to know that such children are going to be inheriting this world. So now I request our student moderator to take the event forward.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was very inspiring. It is always inspiring to listen to you and just to have you with us today. In the words of Malala Yousafzai, we realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced. I raise up my voice not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. Today, let us aspire to be that voice. With that, I call upon our first speaker for the day, a passionate speaker and a fun-loving 12th grader, Ananya Chaudhary, to share her thoughts with us. Ananya, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Am I audible and visible?
Both, Ananya, thank you.
Because majority of the domestic violence awareness movements have always been focused around heterosexual relationships, members of the LGBTQ community have been largely left out of this movement. LGBTQ members fall victim to domestic violence at an equal or even higher rates compared to the heterosexual counterparts. There have been several aspects of intimate partner violence which can be unique to the LGBTQ community. Outing or threatening to reveal one's partner's sexual orientation or identity may be used as a tool of abuse in violent relationships and may be also a barrier which reduces the likelihood of help seeking for the abuse. Prior experiences of physical or psychological trauma such as bullying, hate crime, may make LGBTQ victims of domestic violence less likely to seek help. LGBTQ victims of domestic violence are less likely to seek help anyways. Transgender victims of intimate partner violence are more likely to experience threats or intimidation, harassment, and police violence within the intimate partner violence. Specific forms of abuse occur within the relationship wherein one partner is transgender, including use of offensive pronouns such as it to refer to the transgender partner, ridiculing the transgender partner's body or appearance, and ridiculing them on the partner's identity as bisexual, trans, butch, genderqueer, etc. Although the response of the LGBTQ victim domestic violence is gradually improving, the LGBTQ community is often met with ineffective and victimizing legal responses. 45% of victims do not report the violence they experience to the police because they believe it will not help them. Furthermore, members of the LGBTQ community may be denied assistance and domestic violence services as a result of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. Society believes that domestic violence does not occur in LGBTQ relationships, and a fear of airing the problems among the LGBTQ population will take away the progress towards the equality or fuel anti-LGBTQ bias are some of the restraints this community faces. Domestic violence shelters are typically for females only, and transgender individuals may not even be allowed entrance due to the transgender or genital illegal status. It's time we change that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ananya. Our next speaker for the day is an energetic but emotional young man, Shonklop Maiti from class 10. Over to you, Shonklop.
Am I visible and audible? Okay. With the start of the lockdown, the cases on domestic violence have been increasing steadily. Nevertheless, it is too significant a fact to ignore. In today's world, women are looked down by most men as a commodity. Thus, we see so many rapes, violence, and harassment. No woman can deny that they haven't been harassed or molested in a public place at least once. I have myself seen harassment and molesting, and while protesting, I was asked to shut my mouth by a woman sitting beside me in a public bus just because of the fact that I was a minor. The fact that women facing such types of touches do not protest acts as a catalyst. Women must raise their voice. Moreover, it is the societal acceptance that also harnesses such acts. The patriarchal society we live in hardly protests. Why is it so that girls have to keep informing where they are and boys don't? To change this, we need a massive change in the mentality of the people. Everyone must be schooled since childhood how to behave and conduct themselves in public places. The fact that men look down on women is an effect of polygamy still practiced in India by various sects and people. The societal build-up that men and boys in particular are the heir of the family is also a major cause of such violence. Thus, a woman is beaten up when she gives birth to a child. People still fail to understand that it is a woman who gives birth to a child or has given birth to them. However, I feel that women are also the leading cause of this violence. Women perpetuate violence against women. Since childhood, women unknowingly teach their children how to look down upon other women. It all starts from the family. When a boy is given higher priority than a girl, whether it is in case of education or in case of opportunities offered. Thus, it is a woman who turns into the enemy of another woman. Thus, when these boys grow up, they are absolutely perfect in harassing a woman or pulling them down. Often, the reason to any act of violence or harassment is narrowed down um, is narrowed down to the kind of dress that women wear. My question is that why can't men limit their fascination and their greed? Why is it a woman who has to cover herself up entirely? The fact remains that we haven't brought up our boys properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Shonklop. Now, breaking the thread of speeches is our own joint editor, Arunima Paul from class 10 with an inspiring poem.
Am I audible? Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high. Still, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
That was truly elevating, Arunima. Thank you. Now we would like to call upon Shrimoy ma'am to enlighten us with a few words and to engage in a short interactive session with our students.
Good morning, students. Good morning, teachers of Sri Sri Academy. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for inviting me to speak today on a topic which is close to my heart. You have wisely selected this topic. It's more than just that. Truly, violence is not always visible. It is passive, it is subtle, it is multi-layered, and the consequences can be life debilitating. There is emotional abuse, there is physical violence, there is emotional violence, there is family violence when we speak of elder abuse, and when we talk about domestic violence, it isn't only about women in the family. It also may encompass an elderly lady or a gentleman who may be neglected and uncared for. So these are the minor details, if I may say that, or things which which happen in an everyday life, and we tend to ignore it. And like somebody said, that it happens, violence can also occur in public spaces. It could be socioeconomic, it could be home-based workers, street vendors, on agriculture workers, waste pickers, sex workers, of course. So like I said, violence is totally multi-layered concept, and it is very, very difficult to actually put your hands or identify those unless we are very conscious and mindful of these. My body of work is on children and families, mainly the major focus. And like somebody mentioned, children often face violence. And this society which we live in, you will find we don't really recognize children's voices. So my first appeal to everybody is that please listen to children. Please give them a voice to participate in all the decision makings in life. And that will really enable a culture which is understanding, which is empathetic, and let children raise a voice of protest. And this is what activism is all about. When you mobilize the society with certain concepts, with perspectives, with dialogues, with conversations on how children and families face violence and what are the things that need to change the society, the policies really, that will really be helpful to take activism forward. And like, I'm so happy that you chose this topic. It's more than just that, because you've upheld so many perspectives also. But let us also realize that these concepts and the result of injustice in society, the social injustices, are a result of patriarchy. Now, one may ask, what is patriarchy? I know you all know about it because I've been hearing your voices, and you have an idea of what patriarchy is. Patriarchy is a system in society or a social construct which establishes an unequal allocation of power, as mostly assigning all power and control to the patriarch or the father or a male figure. So what happens is that when you assign all the power and authority to a particular person, the rest, the women, the children, everybody, somehow there is an imbalance. So it results in an imbalance in society, and that is how actually violence is perpetrated. And this is how we can stop by protesting against patriarchal attitudes, mindsets, et al. Even in school, if you ask me, like how in school there can be violence, I'm sure I'm not talking about this school, but in school a lot of bullying happens. So if you could just protest against bullying, if you could build up communities, small societies, the child is not made to feel humiliated, and make a culture of understanding, listening, participating, then I'm sure the school will be and any school or any community or society will be very, very powerful in protesting against all other injustices that happen. And of course, lastly, I would say that violence and this is intersectional also, like it can be a violence against an Adivasi girl, a Dalit girl, a disabled child, or a person. And there are so many intersectionalities that cut across violence, that cut across society, and we must be aware, mindful that why we are saying that a Dalit or Adivasi children are also they are not given the right authority, the right opportunities to protest and to move ahead in life. And if you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer that. But as of now, this is all I can say, that gender, I'm not confining gender to only women, but gender roles refer to socially constructed roles. Gender identity refers to how individuals view himself or herself. And there is a lot of interplay between power, abuse, and gender. So we must be mindful of all sorts of that. It is difficult, but we will get there someday. We will change our society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sorry for the video glitch. Okay. Ma'am, would you like to entertain some questions from our students?
Yes, of course.
Do we have anyone with questions?
Riti, can I take a moment?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you, Srimoyee, for your extraordinary contribution to this session. And we are honored to have you here.
My pleasure.
And in conversation, I was telling the students that As activists, they have to constantly remember the intersectionality of issues and circumstances that you have mentioned. Considering if there is a case of violence against an Adivasi girl who's visually or physically handicapped or challenged, and then she comes from the tribal region where there is limited access to the judicial support or recourses available to others, and then being a girl, and then being poor. What can be the level of intensity of that injustice or abuse? Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Is this a question or it's just a comment?
Urmi ma'am, you're on mute.
Just a comment and to appreciate your point.
Thank you, Nidhi.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I don't see any questions in the chat box as of now. So moving ahead, next we have a passionate poet from class 12E. I present to you Poonam Vaid with a self-written piece. Poonam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dhriti. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, both.
You had just come home. I was in the kitchen, where I was supposed to be. Your eyes too tired to look elsewhere. You called for me, wishing to stroke my hair. You missed me at work that day, I think. My head is bleeding. You look pretty, you said. I was wearing the red you'd gifted me with a hint of purple. Perhaps you were fond of these shades so much that you imprinted them on me. You were hungry, not for me just yet, but the plate of food you were going to throw. Saying the salt was more. With my tears, I thought. But you say you love me. Your love is just different, I guess. One that aches strong enough for me to shatter, but not enough to kill like poison. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. That was truly hair-raising and very symbolic of how domestic violence is still prevalent in our country in every single nook and cranny. Thank you so much, Poonam. Now I present to you our very own director, Panchal Chaudhary. Panchal, the floor is yours.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, Panchal, both. Go ahead.
Within minutes of me entering the world, I was labeled and placed in a category boy. And so begins gender stereotyping. The handsome baby boys come home in blue blankets, and the pretty baby girls are wrapped up in pink. Gender specific norms are established at birth, and these ideologies and images are constantly swirling around us. It's just a fluffy baby blanket, right? Can something so minor represent something so major? Or is it how we, as a society, identify and label boys and men versus girls and women? Amazingly, ancient traditional stereotypes still exist in India and around the world. Gender discrimination, although much better than 50 or even 10 years ago, still occurs. A few days ago, I was having a conversation with my aunt. I asked her about her interest in sports, and her reply was that if she had been about a decade or so younger, then she would have definitely tried her luck in ice hockey. But at maximum, she could have been an ice girl. For those who do not follow this sport, they are a half dozen scantily clad, pretty young women in low cut tops that appear during intermission, pushing shawls across the ice, to clear up after the men. So I concluded that these ancient sexist attitudes need to change. It's one thing for a girl to dream of being a professional player, and another to learn that she won't make it to the big leagues just because for being a woman. I asked my aunt if the ice girls got the chance after matches to meet the players, and if yes, then I would definitely be an ice boy. But alas, I was told that I had to be a girl to get that job. That's so unfair. That's not equal rights. It's the same as the girls not allowed in the big leagues. We have the power to encourage everyone to take action against gender discrimination. It is this inequality which gives rise to gender based violence, where one group thinks them to be the supreme and then tortures the others who it thinks to be inferior. Gender based violence, particularly violence against women and girls, is the most pervasive form of human rights violations and prevents women and girls from reaching their full potential. It is an obstacle to women living dignified lives free from fear. Preventing and ending gender based violence is possible. Education, advocating for change, sponsoring a survivor of war and violence are just a few of the things one can do to help end this global and pervasive issue. We should encourage all to change the rules, both written and the societal norms. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Panchul. That was truly a slap in the face of society. Thank you. It was great. Just a request to everyone, please keep your videos on, preferably while speaking, and keep yourself on mute while the others are speaking. I also request people who are using two devices to use only one, because otherwise then it creates an echo, which is a problem. So thank you, everyone. Now moving on, we have with the poetic recitation, director Pragya Bingani. Pragya, over to you now.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Pragya.
Breathing Violence, a poem by Harris Connick. A pill to numb the pain, makeup to cover up all the scars and bruises, shirts with long sleeves so others won't notice. She kept quiet about it, hoping it would stop. One day, perhaps, when he gets sober and reason takes over. A punch after punch straight to her face, calling her worthless while she's sobbing, and their kids watching. A pill to numb the mind, bandages on her arms, blood soaking her lips, her skin full of scars, still hoping it will stop. She phoned the police one day after a beating, wanted her kids to be safe. But they just made a report and told her they'll be fine. He got mad after that, stripped her naked and beat her with a wooden plank until blood gushed out. One day her son couldn't take it anymore. He took a kitchen knife, stabbed the drunk father numerous times. A pill to numb the pain, makeup to cover up all the scars and bruises. He grew up to be the same, carrying around a wooden cane. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragya. That was truly amazing. And the poem teaches us very well that violence doesn't stop with death. It has to be ingrained in the minds, in young minds, not to learn from the other generations. Just like the son learned from his father, it is our responsibility to ensure that we no longer have such sons left in society. Thank you so much, Pragya. Our next speaker is Ira Jaiswal from class 12V. Over to you, Ira.
Am I audible?
Yes, Ira, both audible and visible. Thank you.
My personal speech titled The Past and the Present. Good morning to our honorable moderator, respected teachers, chief guests, and my dear friends. It is a great privilege on my part to be allowed to come on the dais and speak on the most frontline and burning issue, prevention of violence against women. It does not need to be reminded that the most ancient civilization on the soil of the subcontinent, the Indus Valley civilization, used to worship the mother goddess. The early Vedic people gave equal status to their women counterpart, and many women saints like Gargi and Pritha, who had equally contributed in composing Vedic hymns along with the male counterparts. Even as wife, women were considered by equal status, and so the name Ardhangini. In our culture, Ardhanarishwar status of Lord Shiva is a burning example of how even the divine upholds the celebration of womanhood. It is thus a heritage to honor and give equal status to the women of a society. But the question is, why this lowly and mean treatment to the women? It is the patriarchal society which has tried to subdue the cause of women. The events of molesting women in public transports, incidents of rape, and even love jihads are an eye opener to all of us. Nobody can forget the Nirbhaya incident and Nikita Tomar, which are the examples of blatant truth of how ruthless and ravenous some human beings can be to have committed such a heinous crime. Is there any answer to these inhuman incidents, or are we prepared for them? My personal experience is that we are still like that pet chickens, those who are fed only to be slaughtered. The above mentioned cases are no less of the stories, but just the beginning. In a country which celebrates womanhood through poems and stories, and by pioneers like Sarojini Naidu, a girl from a poor family is forced into prostitution. Still in our country, we need to raise our voice against such injustice. These needs to stop and violence must end. Our scenario of violence on women is in a various pockets and so various that often they are very difficult to collaborate them under a particular heading of violence. The only way to fight is to put individual effort which counts and stand against it. We should stand united to extinguish this fire, and we should not forget that it is a fire which extinguishes a fire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ira. Urmi ma'am, would you please like to throw some more light on this topic? After which we will call upon our second issue expert, Ananya ma'am, to address us. Urmi ma'am, the floor is
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you, Dhriti. In this segment, Anshul, Pragya, and Ira have presented us with three completely different scenarios. One is on the field of ice hockey, when children, young people are aspiring for equality. They might have the same kind of caliber, same talent, but just because she's born of a particular gender, she's not included. In Pragya's research, she has selected a poem that is really truly gut-wrenching. The visual impact of that poem is such that all of us who have seen or experienced this kind of violence, it leaves us completely paralyzed to think that there is intergenerational transmission of violence and violent act as well. So this is an intergenerational trauma that we are also talking about here. And Ira has talked about all our historic and mythological past and things that are embedded in much of our spiritual practice and religion, patriarchy, something that our expert Srimohi has already elaborated upon. And I once again congratulate the students and so incredibly proud to see you people emerging as activists in a field that the whole world is grappling with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Urmi ma'am. Now, to break away from our thread of student speeches, I would like to call upon our second issue expert, Ananya ma'am, to address the gathering. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I feel very inspired by listening to the students. You're such a talented, such a energetic lot, and you are the people who give us hope that things will change, things are changing. And I'm sure that things will change because all of you who spoke, who sang, who recited poems, you did exactly the things that you should be doing, that this generation should be doing. Just a few things. This violence, the violence that we see around us, you know, when I started making documentaries, the first documentary that I made was a film called Gandhari. And there, Gandhari is a favorite character of mine in Mahabharata because I find her to be a very powerful woman. However, the same woman just because her husband was blind, she chose to blindfold herself. And I've always felt that had she chosen not to blindfold herself, she had the power to stop the war. She alone could have done it. So the reason why I named the film Gandhari is because we are all educated. Many of us were working at the time when I made the film, which was in the early 90s. However, all of us, when it came to our personal lives, we were all compromising. We were all taking justice. We were all pretending that all was well. And I could see my sisters around me, my cousins around me. They were all educated. They were all working, economically independent. But whenever an incident of violence was happening, a domestic violence, they would say, you have to compromise a little bit. No, you have to accept it. It is all right. A little bit of violence is all right. So, but a little bit of violence is not all right. No violence is not all right. So I wanted to find out, where does this deep-rooted conditioning come from, that for women to accept that violence is all right. And while I was working, I started doing a lot of research, and I found out that in most of our religious texts, in all religions, women are actually not equal. I would like to disagree with my previous student speaker, who said that in ancient India, in the Vedic times, women were equal. Women were never equal. Women, even in the Vedic times, women were not equal. It was in the house, the father was the boss. The father was, or the men in the family were working, they were studying, they were going out for work. And the women were supposed to sit at home, and they were only supposed to do domestic chores. They were not allowed to educate themselves, and they were not allowed to have any property in their own name. Women and Shudras, they all never had any rights. We have to get this very clear. We never had any rights. The stories that we hear about Gargi and Moitri and all that, those are tokenism. Just one woman in the entire history of Hinduism, of this Vedic society, where we get only one or two names. So how did this happen? I asked a young girl who used to work with me, a trainee. I told her, just do one thing. Go through all the religious texts and find me one ritual where a man fasts for a woman's well-being. So she went through all the religions and all the rituals, and she couldn't find any. And that woman, that girl at that time was a student, and she thought Karwa Chauth was a very sweet thing to do and all that. Later, she was transformed completely, and now she's one of the best known feminists in India. Her name is Manisha Gupta. She had started working with me as a trainee. And she said, there is actually nothing. All the rituals, each one of the rituals is for the brother or the husband or the son. There is nothing absolutely for women. So this kind of, these rituals, these religious things, these religious texts, it has perpetuated this conditioning into us and made us believe that yes, men are superior and women are equal. If you look at any of these shastras, if you look at one of the shastras, I forget which one, it says, the shloka in Sanskrit, in the English translation, it says, to my neighbor's house, give a daughter. In my house, give a son. And it is there in all the shastras, in every religion. It's women who are kept down through religion, through religious texts, through cultures, to be inferior. And it is so much so, it is so deeply rooted that even today, I have a friend who's very educated. Her husband is in the Merchant Navy. She's a journalist. She lives in a very posh gated housing society, and she has two daughters. When her second daughter was born, her neighbors, her friends, her neighbors, they told her, some of the women, that how come you have another daughter? So she said, yeah, I had another daughter, so big deal. So she said, but you didn't get yourself tested. So she said, but I thought testing is an offense in India. So he said, no, but we all do that. We all go to Singapore and we get ourselves tested because that is not illegal here. We come back and we get ourselves aborted here. So she said that then I realized that in that entire housing society, which is a gated housing society, and everyone is stinking rich and educated, so-called educated, which means, they have degrees. None of them have two daughters. They either have one daughter and one son, or two sons, or just one daughter. Then none of them have two daughters. So what are we talking about? If this is what education has led us to, we have become refined butchers. In the earlier times, the midwife was told to kill off the baby girl. And now we have become very refined, sophisticated, so-called educated butchers. And because we can afford, we go to Singapore to get ourselves tested. But we don't want the daughter. So as many of you said, that violence comes from the family. It comes from within. We have to change our own mindset. We need to raise our own self-esteem, that housework is work. We have to accept that. When you do not accept that housework is work, that only going to office is work, that when you do not put any value to child rearing and childbearing, then this is what happens. The fact that childbearing or child rearing is an extremely important part of nation building, that you are rearing a child up to be a good citizen, to be a good conscientious citizen. That is an extremely important of nation building. But in a capitalist society, we only value work which is paid. Because housework is not paid work, because childbearing and child rearing is not paid work, therefore we assume that that is not work. And I remember in that film that I made in Gandhari, I asked a number of men on the streets, a policeman, randomly, an executive, that what does your wife do? So they said nothing, which means, in other words, that she's a housewife. So, but the interesting thing is that I asked several housewives, what do you do? And they also said nothing. They said, we stay at home. And then I showed the number of things that she actually does. Waking up from early morning, making tiffin for everyone, breakfast, lunch, cleaning the house, supervising everything, and till night, when she completes everything. So she herself has no self-esteem. She has no realization about the kind of work that she's doing, the valuable work, the value that she is putting into her work. And just to end, what I would like to say is that I remember many years ago, I attended a workshop, a seminar kind of a thing, a round table, where we were discussing, I was a journalist at that time, and there were people from the judiciary, from the police, from NGOs, etc. And people were talking about how when women go to the police station with an incident of domestic violence, they are asked to put up with it, and they're told that, go home, it's okay. Thoda sa pit hi sakte hain apne pati. This I'm talking about many years ago. So in that conference, there was this one very senior officer, police officer, who was sitting right next to me, who said, I know, I understand when you are angry with the police, but you remember that unlike the Scotland Yard, we are not paid so well. And also, we are so overworked. We have to sometimes work 7 days a week. We have long working hours. We have very poor salaries, and we have nothing. We are paid nothing compared to Scotland Yard, and we hardly get any leave, and we hardly hardly get very little increment, etc., etc. So immediately after him, and he said that is the reason why sometimes the police become a little insensitive. So I was speaking right after him, and I said, the way you describe the police in India, it reminded me of the Indian housewife. She is also somebody, who works 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. She wakes up first, goes to bed earliest. She doesn't get a salary. She doesn't get any leave, any paid leave, any CL, PL, EL, or anything of that sort. And on top of that, if अगर खाना में नमक थोड़ा कम या ज्यादा हो गया, so she hears a word or two. However, that doesn't make her insensitive. So I'm very curious to know that what is it that makes one gender very insensitive in these circumstances, and the other gender very compassionate, because Indian women, Indian housewives are known for their compassion. So I'm very curious to know what is it genetically different between the two genders that makes, you know, one sex very insensitive and the other sex very compassionate. So yeah, so you know, I have anecdotes and anecdotes, but thank you very much for calling me here, and I feel very invigorated listening to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for that reality check, to almost go as far as questioning the biology behind our construction, and for this amazing eye-opener about how easily everything in our society is saleable, from the moral compass of people in positions of power to us sitting in our homes. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was truly invigorating.
Dhriti, may I ask a question to...
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Chakravarti, I just wanted, you know, your talk was so interesting. Two things I wanted to ask you. Number one, you were talking about, you know, the women being more compassionate, etc. But if you notice throughout the ages, you know, a woman has been a woman's worst enemy. Like mothers-in-law, you know, ill-treating the daughters, and, you know, sisters-in-law, you know, ill-treating the brother's wife, and, you know, that kind of thing. So how could you explain in that case, how can an Indian woman be considered to be compassionate?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. One more question is, in Indian society, especially in Eastern India, I'm talking about Bengal, here we are talking about a patriarchal society, but you know, in Bengal, etc., we worship the woman, goddess Durga, goddess Kali, Saraswati, Lakshmi. So could you explain how that has come about? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for these very important questions. I'm loving to answer the first one, especially. It is, you know, it's a very common thing that women are women's worst enemy, but it's actually not that. It's patriarchy. Who are the women who are torturing other women? The son's mother, the son's sister. So it is not a woman actually who's torturing another woman. It's her position. It's under patriarchy. Because she is the son's mother, she considers herself to be more powerful. Because she is the son's sister, she considers herself more powerful. So therefore, it is what we call shadow patriarchy. You'll find families where both the husband and wife are working, and secondly, patriarchy is not gender specific. That is very important to understand. You'll find men who are feminists and women who are patriarchal. Patriarchy is a value, and when you find in families, especially modern families, where the husband and the wife both are working, they come back home, and the husband is very keen to help out the wife in the kitchen. But it's the mother who is steeped in patriarchy. You said, what rubbish, how can you go to the kitchen? So it's here you find the man who's liberated, who's a feminist, the woman who is not, because patriarchy is not gender specific. To come to your second question about the goddess, this is the thing that on the one hand, we like to place women on a pedestal, a certain kind of women. If you notice, most of the goddesses that we have, they are fair, they're long haired, they wear a certain kind of dress, and obviously they belong to a certain class. Except for Kali, except for the tantric incarnations. So a woman must adhere to these norms to be a good woman. But you either worship a woman or you subdue her, but you cannot accept a woman as an equal. That is the problem in the society. We do, as women, I don't want to be worshipped, but I will not be subdued. I want to be treated as an equal. I don't want to subdue anybody. I would like everyone to be an equal. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I cannot listen enough to you, and I hope we'll have you as a permanent member of the Interact family to hold such sessions again and again. And just to add something to that, ma'am said something very valuable. It is only the molten gold color of the Devi that is considered to be pure, but just when it becomes Kali, it becomes tantric. When it becomes Dhumavati, it becomes an omen of bad luck. So just a few lines from Taslima Nasreen. She says, "Je ami shei me, jake apnara golpe, kabbe, shastre ma bole dekechen, প্রকৃতি বলে আদিক্ষেতা করেছেন, আবার রাস্তার আনাচে কানাচে ঠোঁটে রং মাখিয়ে কুপি হাতে দাঁড় করিয়ে দিয়েছেন। হ্যাঁ, আমি সেই মেয়ে। Thank you so much, ma'am. That was truly amazing. Next,
Wonderful,
and I
Shruti.
would probably ask you a lot more questions, but unfortunately we have a time constraint and we have to get back to class. So our next speaker for the day is Chaheti Shamsukha, our own vice president from class 11A. So over to you, Chaheti.
Am I audible?
Yes, Chaheti, you are.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chaheti, and I'm here to tell you what it's like to be a girl. I've never been physically abused, which, as outrageous as it sounds, I consider myself lucky for. Every time I hear about a rape case, my fear of being next increases. Every time I hear about a woman escaping an abusive household, my heart breaks a little more. Every time I'm asked to cover up before leaving my house, it adds fire to my already burning fury. We're not asking for sympathy, and we're not trying to take revenge. All we want is equality, even though it's not something you should have to ask for. Having marches and movements to give girls their rights is appalling, because nobody can take it away from us in the first place. It's something we were born with. We're expected to be meek and sit still, look pretty. The day a girl is born, she's expected to match the society's beauty standards. She's expected to be polite even when she's being abused, and she's expected to bear whatever she's given. Some women spend every second of each day thinking that they'll never be good enough just because they've been told so by society. It'll take you a second to call a woman ugly and useless, but she'll spend her entire life doubting if she'll ever be good enough. When gender equality and feminism is promoted, people often label women as fake feminists, and to me, that it does not make sense. Being a woman and not standing up for other women would be nothing but stupid. Calling a man girly and feminine is considered an insult, which is saddening. A British singer was hated on for wearing a dress on the cover of a magazine, and it's truly heartbreaking. People labeled it as disgusting and said that they wanted manly men back. Calling a man weak and fragile just because he wore a dress is proof that how biased our society is. Everything which is supposed to be feminine is associated with weakness. The fact that there's a need for a day to eradicate violence against women itself proves how we as human beings and society have failed. In the words of Maya Angelou, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. I urge all young women here to stand up for their rights, even if it scares them initially. I urge you all to take pride in being a girl and get tough when you need to be. To everyone, I want to say this. The next time you think of abusing a woman in any form, just know that you have an option of spreading love and treating people with kindness. Don't respect an individual just because you have a family at home who could go through the same abuse. Do it because above everything else, they're human. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaheti. In the words of said British singer, you wake up every morning and you're given a choice. And I ask you to choose love every day. Thank you so much, Chaheti. Next, we have Sehaj Pundi representing the youth sector of the International Justice Mission. Sehaj, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dhriti. The Article 3 of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, called states parties shall take in all fields, in particular in the political, social, economic, and cultural fields, all appropriate measures, including legislation, to ensure the full development and advancement of women, for the purpose of guaranteeing them the exercise and enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms on a basis of equality with men. In spite of such international laws being made protecting the rights of women, the statistics will make you question humanity. By 6th April 2020, more than 90 countries are under lockdown due to the current circumstances and 4 billion people quarantined. Confinement is increasing isolation for women with violent partners, separating them from the people and resources that can best help them. In the previous 12 months, 243 million women and girls in the world have been subjected to sexual or physical violence by an intimate partner. In many countries, the law is not on women's side. 1 in 4 countries have no laws specifically protecting women from domestic violence. Sex trafficking is increasing at an alarming rate, making women and girls the default victim. In such desperate situations, IJM or International Justice Mission, a globally renowned non-profit organization, has been carrying undercover operations throughout the globe, helping victims being trafficked and hidden places one cannot suspect at all. Youth of IJM, on the other hand, is an initiative which a couple of students from various schools of our city came up with. It tries to follow the footsteps of its parent organization, being officially backed by it. Unlike IJM, Youth of IJM functions to mainly spread awareness via social media and all forms of mutually interactive platforms to spread the message among the youth of today. The message being something we all come across in our daily lives, but generally choose to press the snooze button on it. Be it a Chotu in a tea stall who is trying to go to school but cannot, as he's behind the bars of child labor. Even though there's a lot of work left to be done, there has been some progress in the deliverance of justice, where even the government has helped victims to rebuild their lives. A recent newspaper article mentioned a victim receiving a compensation of 900,000 rupees by the DLSA, District Legal Services Authority in West Bengal, indicating that the work doesn't end once the victim is rescued. Helping the survivor rebuild their lives is an important part of if the mission is done well. 25th November, the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, is a reminder in our lives, a reminder of our responsibility of ensuring the proper deliverance of the rights of women across the globe. Thus, the work is truly more than just that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahaj, for that educational and inspiring speech. Finally, to conclude the open mic on a note of appreciation and hope, we have with us our very own President Dhriti Kumar reciting a Bangla poem.
Am I audible and visible to everyone?
Yes.
Thank you. দেখলাম মিটিংয়ে একটু বাংলা কবিতার অভাব পড়েছে, তাই সব গুরুজনকে আমার প্রণাম জানিয়ে একটা বাংলা কবিতা নিবেদন করছি। কবিতাটির মূল নাম হলো কন্যা শ্লোক, মল্লিকা সেনগুপ্তর লেখা। কেউ বলে আমার দুর্গা, আবার কেউ বলে মা তুঝে সালাম। শুরু করছি। আশ্বিনের এক প্রাগৈতিহাসিক সকালে শ্রী রামচন্দ্র যে দুর্গার বোধন করেছিলেন, স্বর্গের দেব পুরুষজন যুদ্ধে পরাজিত হয়ে যে রণদেবীকে অসুর নিধনে পাঠিয়েছিলেন, সেই দুর্গাই 21 শতকে নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন। তার মহাতেজ চিরজাগরুক আগুন হয়ে উঠুক মাটি পৃথিবীর প্রত্যেকটি নারীর মধ্যে। হে মহামানবী, তোমায় সেলাম। মেয়েটির নাম দুর্গা সোরেন বটেক। মায়ের ছিল না অক্ষর জ্ঞান ছটেক। সর্বশিক্ষা অভিযানে পেয়ে বৃত্তি, দুর্গা হয়েছে ইংরেজি স্কুলে ভর্তি। সাঁথালি ডান, ইংরেজি বাঁ হাতে, কম্পিউটারে শিখেছে ইমেল পাঠাতে। অঙ্কের স্যার ভুল হলে যোগ বিয়োগে গায়ে হাত দেয় পড়া শেখানোর সুযোগে। দুর্গা বোঝে না কোনটা যৌন লাঞ্ছনা। স্যারটা নোংরা বটেক, কথাটা মানছ না। শেষে একদিন স্যারের নোংরা হাতটা মুচড়ে দিয়েছে দুর্গা, মেরেছে ঝাপটা। ওরে অর্ধেক আকাশে মাটিতে শ্যাওলা, আকাশে উঠবে হবে কল্পনা চাওলা। যদি না বিমান ভেঙে পড়ে তার দুর্দার, মহা আকাশচারী হবে বটেক দুর্গা। তাই বিশ্বায়নে পণ্যায়নে খণ্ড খণ্ড মানচিত্রে বাংলা, বিহার, রাজস্থানে সাধারণী নমস্তুতে। কন্যা ব্রতে, পত্নী ব্রতে, মোহ মুদ্রা, ধ্বংস মুদ্রা, প্রযুক্তিতে, গৃহকর্মে সাধারণী নমস্তুতে। আমার দুর্গা পথে প্রাঙ্গণে স্কুল ঘরে থাকে। আমার দুর্গা বিপদে আপদে আমায় মা বলে ডাকে। আমার দুর্গা আত্মরক্ষায় শরীর পুড়েছে, মন না। আমার দুর্গা নারী গর্ভের রক্ত মাংস কন্যা। আমার দুর্গা গোলগাল মেয়ে, আমার দুর্গা তন্হি, আমার দুর্গা কখনো ঘরোয়া কখনো আগুন বহ্নি। আমার দুর্গা মেধা পাটেকর, তিস্তা শীতলা বাদেরা, আমার দুর্গা মোম হয়ে জ্বালে অমাবস্যার আঁধেরা। আমার দুর্গা মণিপুর জুড়ে নগ্ন মিছিলে হাঁটে, আমার দুর্গা কাস্তে হাতুড়ি আউশ ধানের মাঠে। আমার দুর্গা ত্রিশূল ধরেছে স্বর্গে এবং মর্তে, আমার দুর্গা বাঁচতে শিখেছে নিজেই নিজের শর্তে। তাই আন্দোলনে, উগ্রপন্থে, শিক্ষাব্রতে, কর্মযজ্ঞে, রান্নাঘরে, আতুর ঘরে মা তুঝে সালাম। অগ্নিপথে, যুদ্ধ জয়ে, লিঙ্গ সম্মে, শ্রেণী সম্মে, দাঙ্গা ক্ষেত্রে, কুরুক্ষেত্রে মা তুঝে সালাম। মা তুঝে সালাম, মা তুঝে সালাম। নমস্কার।
Very, very beautiful. Very nice.
Thank you.
Extraordinary, Dhriti. Extraordinary. Mrs. Shunglu, you have such an inspiring team of students.
Thank you, Urmiji. I'd like to say something before we close. I know we are towards the end and everybody needs to get back to work. You know, after such a powerful session, the energy is so high, the desire to do something is so high. This must not be diluted. Radhika ma'am, I think the Interact Club has really excelled themselves, and all the children have contributed in such beautiful ways. We must have a way forward. It must not stop here. I'm not sure how many people are there on YouTube, but you need to record this and you need to share it with other schools, and we need to spread this to the thousands of children and young boys. I think the most important thing is to empower our boys also along with our girls, raise the awareness. And I have grown up in a family where my father, my brother, we never ever felt that we were unequal. We always were three sisters. We always felt we were more equal than our brother. So
Same here.
And I've always had the men in my family fighting for women if they notice this anyway, for the underdog, for anybody, not be a girl. So therefore, I feel we must widen our scope of work. And yes, traditionally and for years this has happened. But I really want, Radhika ma'am, all of you to put your heads together in the next meeting, come up with a plan of showcasing, involving children across schools and not keeping it limited. And I'm sure Urmi ma'am and all the other wonderful speakers today will also join hands with you to spread this movement. You know?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. It will not be in vain. This will not be in vain.
No. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to call upon a guest of honor, DICC Rotarian Shulogna Daw ma'am, to briefly address the gathering. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. A very good morning, children. A very good morning, Principal ma'am, Urmi ma'am, Radhika ma'am, teachers, and my fellow Rotarians. I'll just share a thing which I experienced a day before yesterday, because I was just going through all these things because Radhika ma'am told me about these issues and all, which today we will discuss. I was in a house party where it was a very small get together, and we were having conversation over a drink. And there was a lady, all educated and all self-made people. We were having drink, and after 2 drinks, I think I can discuss it with all the children. After having 2 drinks, a lady beside me, she was just eager to have another. Suddenly her husband said that to the host, "Na, okay, aar diyo na, duto is okay for her." So I felt, I just looked at him and said, "Why are you saying whether she need a drink or not? She is capable of thinking that." He said, No, actually, it's due to her health. So I said, you should have stopped him from taking the fish fry also, because this will damage her liver too. Not that only to drink will damage her liver. I think the lady was so proud that her husband allowing her to drink, because drinking is the it's the notion for the men, and they are allowing us to drink with them, so they can decide whether we can have 2 or 3 or more than that. We all are educated, we all are established, we are we can be vocal in any other subject, but not in the field where it is men oriented things. So what are we urban people doing? How can we rescue the rural people, the people, the girls who are coming from very low area? So it's us. We have to be vocal for ourselves. Maybe it's a very silly thing, that is a glass of drink, but this is a very silly thing, but still we have to be vocal on it, because we girls are, we girls are our enemy. Like Ananya ma'am said, we are the enemy. But I am proud that I got a parent where I was always considered as an individual, not a girl, not a boy. My parents never said that I'm the only child of my parents, but they never said you are like my son. They never said you are like my daughter. You are a human being. Whatever you feel like you can do, you can discuss it with us. And I was blessed to have my mother, who was always my friend, my philosopher. I could discuss anything and everything with her, whether somebody hit me on the road or somebody had any bad intention towards me. I never had that problem. But there were children in our generation who had those problems, and still they are suffering with all that. I won't be too long because I know time is short, but I must say that I am grateful to Almighty and my parents to be a part of Rotary, where I got the opportunity to get in touch with you all children. The generation from whom I am learning regularly new things, be it technology for in this pandemic, be it being strong, or be it being smart, being brave. I don't know how much I have given you as a DICC, but from in this virtual world also, I learned many things. I am receiving things from you all. Kudos to you all for the work you people are doing for the society. Such sensitive issues, I must say, and always stand for yourself. Then only you can stand for others. If you don't stand for yourself, you can't stand up for others. If you do all the household works also, you feel that I'm responsible for that I'm doing. Don't think that I am there to do it. I am responsible, I'm capable of doing all the household chores. Not that because I'm just pushed to do it. So I must say best wishes to you all. And I believe this generation will bring a great change in the society. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would also like to call upon past DG Rotarian Rajni sir to briefly address the gathering.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, principal, ma'am, teacher coordinator, DICC.
Thank you.
And the most important, my great students. And definitely the two, specialist speakers and Urmi. It was an excellent presentation. I thank Radhika ma'am for giving me the opportunity, inviting me to be part of this. And what I liked most, that it is not only the expert speakers, but the students were given the opportunity to speak out. And they were part of it, they were handling everything and they were part of it. A proper leadership training, which is, Interact for, that giving them the opportunity to be the heroes and heroines. Thank you so much. And as Principal Ma'am said, let us not stop here. Let us, actually implement it, what we have talked about. Let us implement it in our own families, in our own circle, in our everywhere. And if this has been recorded, I would request, if I could get the recording of it. I don't know whether it was being recorded. If you have recorded, if I can have the recording, that would be very nice. Thank you so much once again for inviting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for always being by our side, and we hope we'll have you always by our side. Now I finally call upon our treasurer, Vanij Berry, to deliver the vote of thanks. Unfortunately, we're running late to class, so we'll have to conclude in a hurry. Vanij, over to you.
On behalf of the Interact Club of Sri Sri Academy, I would like to thank our guests of honor, DICC Rotarian Shulogna Dao ma'am and PAS DG Rotarian Rajni Mukherjee sir. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our guest moderator, Ms. Urmi Basu, and our issue experts, Ms. Shrimoy Sen Ram and Ms. Ananya Chakrabarti, for encouraging our speakers and guiding them throughout. I would also like to thank our principal, Mrs. Shunglu, our vice principal, Mrs. Banerjee, Pratima ma'am, and Radhika ma'am for their constant guidance and support and guidance. A special thanks to Pathikrit sir for compiling the video and Arnav sir for technical support. I would also like to thank all the participants and also all the teachers, parents, students, interactors, and faculty members who have taken out time to watch this program. Thank you, everyone.